I'm on the tall end of our ship's lineup. Not the biggest by any means, but with half the crew short enough to elbow in the head accidentally, and the others only that tall when they stand on tentacle tip, it's easy to think of myself as one of the big ones. Sometimes we make deliveries to people who enforce that impression. Today was not one of those times.
"Move aside,"
said the deepest voice, echoing from the opaque helmet of a smasher in an armoured suit.
"Official business goes first."
His companion was just as hulking, with shoulders that looked like they wrestled buffalo for fun, and hands that could crush a coconut. I was glad he wasn't talking to me.
"Official, huh?"
demanded an armor light, sticking his dinosaurian face in close to bare teeth of the helmet. His voice sounded normal by comparison.
"We're official too, and we were here first. Get in line."
He was backed up by a half-dozen similarly beefy individuals. A surprising collection, really. Big Frillians and a couple extremely jacked humans. They made a wall of sneers worthy of any gym bro turf war. The Smashers weren't impressed, but at least they weren't taking out any weapons.
"Role violators who are wanted in several systems have been spotted nearby. We're here to capture them for the greater good. Move aside."
The Armorlight laughed in his face, saying that they were bounty hunters too, and they weren't about to let anyone get ship fuel before they did. The air was full of jeers and testosterone, or the alien equivalent. Some of the macho individuals were female. It made no difference. It was unfortunate, though, since his mess was between us and the front counter, where a single put-upon heat-seeker stood behind a sign about repairs. I saw why none of the bounty hunters had gotten their fuel yet. Apparently the dispensing nozzle for mid-sized ships was broken. Good news. That's what we were here to deliver, among other things. I looked past the hover sled full of heavy machinery at the two most muscle-bound members of our crew, whose body language was currently more timid than usual. I guess they knew their place in the macho pecking order. Blip was glancing from one face to another, as if trying to predict a winner, while Blop stood at attention and stared into the middle distance. All of their many frills were slicked back as if trying not to draw attention. Well, I was a slender, breakable twig compared to everybody except the little heat seeker, and none of that was my problem. "Guys," I said, "let's yell delivery on free." They both looked at me instead of the nonsense. Blip nodded, standing taller and relaxing her frills into a more normal position. Blop took a deep breath that it sounded like he needed. 1, 2, 3, delivery! The argument stopped, and multiple dangerous faces turned in our direction. I tucked the hover sled forward and spoke into the brief silence. Repairs, so everybody can get their fuel faster. What do you know? The sea of biceps and teeth parted to let us through. With Blip and Blop pushing from behind even though the sled didn't need it, I led the way past everybody taller than me to where the green-scaled heat-seeker waited. "Thank you," he said in relief. "That nozzle broke right after our regular supply ship left. Do you have time to stop by our sister colony on the 4th planet? We ordered extra of one of those other parts, and it sounds like they need it." "I think we can manage that," I said, with a glance at Blip and Blop. "Let me just check with the captain. Are the same rates okay?" Behind me, the arguing was getting loud again. The heat seeker agreed readily over the noise and called somebody else up to the front to confirm everything. Instead of shouting into my phone or trying to get past all the competing pectorals twice more, I sent texts and invoices to whoever was in the cockpit. Surprisingly enough, the boisterous voices moved their debate outside while we worked. By the time we got the delivery unloaded, except for the part going to the sister colony, the room was quiet. I was glad for that, though worried about what we'd find when we left. I asked the heat seeker at the counter, "Have those bounty hunters been here before?" He shook his scaly head. "No. I hope they finish their business soon and move on." I agreed. We said our goodbyes, then the twins and I maneuvered the nearly empty hover sled back to the door. The only thing left on it was a bundle of cables for some sort of electronics. Thoroughly packaged to keep out dust, and tied down in case of unexpected jostles to the sled. I hoped there wouldn't be any of those on the way to the ship. With a glance at Blip and Blop, I moved forward to open the door. Cheers, grunts and thuds greeted me. After one cautious step out onto the rural spaceport, I saw how the meatheads had decided to resolve their differences. It wasn't by fighting. It also wasn't a dance-off, which I'd seen once before. No, they were taking turns picking up empty fuel tanks and seeing how far they could throw them. It was very far. Let's take the long way round, I suggested.
No kidding,
Blip agreed, pushing the sled faster.
Before they decide to throw us.
I stepped quickly. That's an option to them?
Probably.
Blop said,
I hope the sister colony is quieter.
Me too, I agreed, as we hurried to our ship with roars of triumph filling the air. Surprisingly enough, the three of us got to see that sister colony ourselves shortly after. Usually our crew trades off in who hands over the deliveries, so it should have been Paint and Mur doing this second drop-off, but this was an unplanned one and they were busy helping deep clean the medical bay. So I went again with the Blip and Blop, and we got to appreciate a similar reception area with no slabs of beef causing trouble. This is a lovely place, I told the heat seeker, with deep blue scales at the desk. Windows lined every wall here, giving us a view of rolling hills, where cloud shadows drifted over bushy trees and equally bushy sheep-like things. The scent of spicy flowers wafted through.
It is, she replied, looking tired. The aromatic moss on the trees is particularly beautiful.
The other heat seeker checking over the cable said,
Too bad the locals weren't making up their monster stories. If those were actually fake, I'd be a lot happier.
What monster stories? I asked. Blip and Blop got more alert behind me. At the same time, the first heat seeker asked,
They're not? Are we sure?
The guy with lighter blue scales straightened up.
We're sure. Another set of their livestock got killed last night, and more personal accounts of missing people have turned up now that we're actually looking into it.
He gave me a glance.
We don't know what kind of monster we're talking about, but I have theories.
I looked out the windows again. The scenery didn't seem quite as welcoming now. Is there a local predator eating people? The receptionist hurried to clarify.
Nothing gets eaten. The people always turn up again, and the animals are damaged but not taken away.
Blip asked,
Have you put up security cameras?
Yes, that's what this cable is for. We're putting up more and making sure they're connected to a proper power supply.
But did the first one see anything?
Blip insisted.
Not the culprits, said the darker heat seeker. We need to aim higher, I think, and adjust for light fluctuations. Whoever is doing this brings spotlights to upset the cameras, or else it's some sort of natural bioluminescence on a grand scale.
The pale guy shook his head.
There's definitely somebody in the ship. Creatures on foot wouldn't be able to make those patterns in the plants, at least not that quickly.
I whipped my circle around. Crop circles?
They are circular, yes.
So people are being taken, I repeated. Abducted, then returned, while livestock is getting mutilated and there are circles in their crops?
That's about the size of it.
The guy gave me a sharp look.
You've seen this before?
Not personally, I said with a frown, but my planet sure has.
Oh, said Blob. It's those little grey guys, right? I've heard about them. No morals at all.
Yes, them. I felt my frown turning into a proper scowl. They harassed my planet for generations and never answered for it. They only left when we made contact with the broader galaxy. The frill-tearing mudeggs. I made sure to insult them in both Fullian and Heatseeker terminology to make sure we were all on the same page. The darker Heatseeker looked appropriately scandalized.
That would fit with the only way the locals have seen them here. They must be avoiding us.
But maybe they're about to leave soon, right?
Asked the paler one.
Since they only like uncontacted prey who can't report them.
Probably, I said. I turned back to tap a finger on the payment tablet. Let's finish up quickly. I know just who to tell about this, and these little grey bastards are exactly the kind of rule breaker they'll outdo each other trying to catch.